do that. Okay, great. Got it. All right, cool. I don't see. No. All right, I'll just share my whole desktop. Hold on, you're all going to see your slides. All right, here we go. View slide only. Okay, that helps. And let me just get this out of the way. And Zoom. How is that for scale? Is everyone able to see this well enough? Okay, cool. So we've got some, do you mind watching the waiting room, Leah?
Got you covered.
Awesome, cool. All right, so I'm Christine Fajardo, as my board colleague Julia said, and you know, it's obviously it's a midterm election cycle. There's lots of back and forth, lots of opinions, kind of a divisive time that we're all living in. So it felt like a good opportunity to just try to bring a little levity in and you know, bring the things that we as a UX community talk about and care about and debate about, and you know, create this opportunity for some of our favorite community members to step up and show their chops. So very excited that you're all here. Very excited about for our debaters who signed up. We'll introduce them shortly, but this you can see is a preview of the topics that we will be debating tonight. And I will go through and describe the format. How can I advance when I am not in? Let's see. Okay, this is how we'll do it. A little unofficial here. So before we get started, I did want to let everyone know that in the spirit of choice, we're looking to ask for your help in guiding our lineup for 2023. So, you know, what are the topics that you're interested in? Who are the speakers that you're following that you think have a lot of interesting things to say? What are the issues that you think are maybe facing our industry or us individually as practitioners? And we will take in all of your responses and use that to directly inform our roster for 2023, which we are already in the process of building out. So let me jump out. By the way, I'm going to be going in and out of my multiple screens here throughout. So bear with me. I'm going to place this link into the chat. So that is the Google form that please fill out at your convenience. Cal will continue to drop that into the chat throughout the evening as reminders. So, and we'll also post it on our various social channels. So if you can't think of anything right off the top of your head, but something comes to mind, you'll be able to ask the survey both during tonight's session and then in the coming weeks. So let's see. Next, we have our format. So there's going to be 3 rounds, maybe. The goal is for one of our 3 debaters to get to 2 wins first. So if we'll have our first 2 debaters go in round 1. Whoever wins round 1 will move on to round 2 and debate our 3rd debater. If the round 1 winner wins in round 2, they become the winner overall. And we will take our 3rd round topic and use it as general discussion within this group. It's there to be our tiebreaker, our sudden death, overtime round, should we end up having 2 different winners coming out of both rounds. So For background, our three debaters did receive the topics in advance, but they don't yet know which side of the argument they will be on. So we are actually going to assign everybody, it'll happen kind of real time with you all. So extra shout out to our debaters, because not only did they agree to step up and be part of this, but essentially they had to prep by creating arguments for both sides of an issue. So this will really be an opportunity for each of them to show off their chops. So each debate will last exactly 15 minutes. Each debater will have an opportunity to create an opening argument. The opposite debater will have a 2-minute rebuttal. They'll each then get a minute to rebut one another in reverse order, and then create a 2-minute closing argument. During this time, we're going to be asking you, our audience members, to vote using Slido. So when we get to each round, I'll release the poll, and we will decide, community choice. We'll put our votes in and figure out who wins and moves on to the next round and the next round after that. So what's at stake? First of all, bragging rights, endless glory, and there are no term limits. Whoever is our winner gets to be our winner forever. So that's exciting. And you'll all get a meal on UXPA, NHUXPA. So that is what you are playing for. I think the bragging rights and endless glory is obviously the most valuable here. So with that, I'd like to introduce our debaters. So beginning with Kyle Soucy. Kyle is the founding principal and lead UX research consultant at Usable Interface. Kyle is also she's the founder of our NHUXPA chapter, and her superpower is growing the UX community. So welcome, Kyle. Very excited. I heard you were doing stretches. I heard you ate a high protein dinner. So I think the prep will pay off. Next, we have Stephen, head of UX at TechMates Group, or TMG.io for short. Stephen's superpower is making the experience disappear. And before he turned his background off, he was also making the top of his banana costume disappear for a minute. But now he's shut that off, so we can all enjoy the full specter of his Halloween spirit. So welcome, Stephen. Also really excited that you're here. Obviously, we know you have a lot of vitamin K on board. I think that's what comes from bananas. So you won't suffer any muscle cramps during the debate. So thrilled about that. And last but not least, Roger Soucy, also a founding member of NHUXPA and lead UX researcher at Eclipse Product Development. And your superpower is nailing the breakpoints. Roger has a ton of experience with web design at all various screen sizes, including mobile, of course, and has been doing this for quite a while. Your other superpower, of course, is also interaction design. So thrilled to have all three of you here. And I would like to give each of you 30 seconds to just give a plug, talk some smack, whatever you want to do, just to get the crowd amped up.
You're all going down.
Throw this peel right behind me. You'll slip over it while you're in my dust.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm pleading the fifth. I'm not going to talk smack because, you know. I live, yeah.
He has to live with one of us.
For those that don't know, Kyle and I are married. So I'm going to keep things professional.
Civil. Okay, well, we just discovered another superpower of Roger's, keeping a happy marriage. Cool. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out who's going first and who is arguing what. So our first topic is, should we use NPS, Net Promoter Score, to measure product impact? Yes or no? So for those who are in our audience, you can see the, if you go to slido.com and you put in this code, you'll be able to vote live. You can also hold your phone up to the screen and scan the QR code and use your phone to vote if you'd like. So keeping this, this topic in mind, let's figure out who is going to go first. So how do I hide my tools here? Oops. Okay, so.
Oh, this is cool.
So the first debater, we're choosing between Kyle, Stephen, and Roger. So let's go. Yay! Okay, who's it gonna be? Your first competitor.
All
right. Roger, are you relieved it's not head-to-head in the household round one?
Thanks. And remember, the gift certificate will be in the mail tomorrow.
Okay, so our first lineup is Kyle versus Stephen. Now, Stephen, since you were selected second, you get to decide. Do you want to be assigned the side first, or do you want Kyle to be assigned the side first?
I'd like to have the last rebuttal.
Oh Lord, that's your.
And let Kyle take her side.
That's very strategic.
That was.
I'm a football fan, so I got to follow the Belichick strategy.
Wow.
I don't know if you can figure that out though. This is like for the side, not for who goes first, right?
What?
Well, that's a good question. Okay, I think
who goes first, yes or no?
Yeah, we just.
I will defer to Kyle for a suggestion there.
Oh, that's fair. Okay,
yeah,
since
I'll defer.
That you are going to get assigned first, Kyle will get to decide who gets to start first. How about that? So let's see who's doing what. So this is to decide which side Stephen is going to be arguing. No.
Okay.
Okay, so going back to my slide deck.
Yeah, that's great.
So according to Stephen, the answer is no. NPS is not the way to measure product impacts. And Kyle, the answer is yes. We should use NPS to measure product impact. So Kyle, would you like to go first or would you like to go second?
Oh, I'll go first.
All right, I'm going to start our, hold on, I really could use a second screen here. They don't have that in my little cottage here. Okay, so I'm going to start our timer in just a moment and I'll go to full screen so that you'll be able to keep track of where you are in the timing. And then at the end of the 2.5 minutes, I will reset it and Stephen, you will go from there.
Oh, one thing, should we just briefly explain NPS just in case anybody is not aware of it?
That's a yes. And Kyle, will you do that for us?
Sure. Okay. So NPS stands for Net Promoter Score. It's a questionnaire of 0 to 10 where you ask users how likely they would be to recommend a product or a service. And you're either, if you score 0 to 6, you're considered a detractor. If you score 9 to 10, you're considered a promoter.
Yes, thank you. Quite succinct. That's why I asked you to do that, not me. You'd still be here for another 10 minutes. Okay, perfect. Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit start in just a second here. Our Kyle and Stephen, are you both ready?
Ready.
All right, so Kyle, take it away.
Okay, so NPS is a gauge of customer loyalty, and there's evidence that loyalty measured this way is a predictor of growth. So if you have a usable product, customers will tell their friends about the positive experience. And NPS may not be perfect, but it does open the door to conducting more research. So once you get that NPS number, You're going to want to learn why it scored that way, which leads you to conduct more qualitative research, hopefully. So it can be a great way to just get research going and started. The most important thing about NPS is that it has the ear of the C-suite, the other executives. That's a number that they care about. It's a number that they benchmark themselves against other companies in their industry. It's a metric that really matters to them. Some of us might not like it, but they do, and we have to speak their language. So comparability is one of the strongest arguments for using the Net Promoter Score. To understand how reliable a measure is, you can track customers over time and just see how many customers say they will recommend it actually did. So you can have validity in it. Now, like all research tools and methodologies, there is a time and a place for it. It just depends on what you're trying to learn. Is NPS perfect? No. Will NPS answer all your questions? Absolutely not. It is a starting point. And I think that starting point, sometimes when you're the only researcher in a company, the only UXer, is really just what you need to get buy-in to do more research. One of the people that I follow in the industry who I value really the most, who does really the most quantitative research, is Jeff Sorrow. And I'm not a quantitative researcher. I trust him in all his studies. If you go to measuring.com or measuringu.com, you can see a lot of his studies. He's very well respected and understands how NPS is not perfect, but it is a way to really couple that data with other data that really gives you a holistic view on loyalty and growth with your product. That's it.
All right. Amazing. Way to get us kicked off and in under just the right amount of time. Okay. Stephen.
When we look at our Net Promoter Score, we're looking at a very simple number. We're looking at, as my opponent just said, a starting point. But while we're looking at that, we see the scale is already off. It's 0 to 6 as a detractor. It's 9 to 10 as a promoter. It's a number that just gives us a basic point in the middle. Like, do people like it? Do people not like it? It doesn't give us the context. It doesn't tell us why they made those decisions. If they are a detractor, it doesn't tell us what's taking away from it, what's giving us a negative experience there. All we know is they don't like it. It's not an actionable piece of information. In fact, to do anything with the Net Promoter Score, to really take it somewhere else, it's always going to require, for a tactical UX plan, follow-up measurements, more concrete strategies. It's going to need a lot more work to take that number and do something with it, especially if it's negative. But that number and that metric itself doesn't tell us what that path is. It doesn't give us a place to start looking. It just tells us we need to start looking anywhere. And finally, it's also easy to gain. If this is our core key performance indicator, or KPI, if you're not familiar with the acronym, this is something that you'll see stores offering incentives. They'll say, we'll give you a $5 gift certificate if you rate us a 9 or 10. It's very easy to just sort of ask people to rate you well, especially if that's the only metric. And if you're just asking people to rate you well in exchange for trinkets or bribes, you're not getting the real information. You're not really getting the actual usability information on if somebody's struggling, especially if they're lying to you and they're telling you what they think you want to hear. You can't fix the underlying problems with just that number. If you're going to be coming it in as a starting point, it's not going to get you very far. It's going to require work immediately and already. So you might as well try and find a different place to start. You might as well figure out what's going on initially, try and do some more traditional work, and then use that as your basis. You can use something like a Net Promoter Score alongside other information, but as a core focus of your research strategy and of your analysis, it's not particularly useful.
Thank you. All right, Kyle, I'd like to hand it over to you for a 2-minute rebuttal.
Okay, so when you are presenting research findings to stakeholders, to product decision makers, you have to know what drives them, what matters to them. That's the only thing that they're going to listen to. is how it motivates them to make a decision that makes them look good. If what they care about are metrics like NPS, then it's something that we can't get away from, as much as maybe we see not as much value in it in other research. We can try and fight that battle, but it really doesn't serve us well. We have to know what motivates each person that sits at that table and speak to them, speak the language of business, speak what they care about. NPS does that for a lot of executives. Not all, but a lot. Now, good research always leads to more research. Our job is never done. Unfortunately, it is not going to be like, great, we found out our NPS score, we know everything now, here's our product roadmap for the future. It's going to lead to more questions. But any research study would, a usability test. Now we know the problems. If you do a survey, you're going to want to get to the why. It just is the way that our industry works. So good research leads to more research, and that's not necessarily a bad thing that NPS can create more work. It starts the ball rolling of that work, and it's work we shouldn't shy away from. When it comes to the way NPS is calculated, there have been a lot of articles about whether or not the detractor 0 to 6 makes sense. The fact that they're throwing out the mean score. The issue with that is that it has been done for so many years, decades, that it just, if we start changing it now, we have to call it a different metric, because then you can't compare it and benchmark it on other scores. Oh, am I out? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will pass it over to Stephen for your rebuttal. And just a reminder, I put the slido.com code in the chat, and you can find it there. Stephen.
Well, our C-suite likes these numbers. It's also too easy to tell them what they want to hear. These numbers are not always accurate. It's also easy for them, if they're taking this, we already have a seat at the table and they hear high net promoter scores, are they going to listen to our recommendations to continue to improve? Should we not be trying to educate them in some more detailed and more accurate metrics that they can use to make more informed decisions? I also disagree that good research leads to more research. In our industry, it does, but the unfortunate reality with our business partners is they have different priorities. I often find in working with my partners that they will focus on one larger research initiative, and that might be the only one for a couple quarters. If we can't always get regular engagements, we might squander our opportunity if we're going to conduct some research and give them numbers that we can't make actionable decisions on. We could have tested for better metrics. We could have found other opportunities in the same time we've taken to measure something as simple as a net promoter score. My opponent has also mentioned that loyalty is something that's driven by net promoter score, that it's a predictor of growth. But what if it's a negative value? What if our net promoter score is negative? We don't know that they're loyal. We know that they're already leaving us in droves. What could we have done to improve that? We don't have any paths forward to put in front of our business partners and say, we see an issue and this is what we can fix. If the net promoter score is a starting point, is it really the right place to start? Can we engage our partners in some more tactical opportunities, some more focused research to give them a strategy, to show them the value of what we can do? Because if we're already at the table with the C-suite, we fought a long way to get there. We don't want to squander that chance.
Excellent. All right, Kyle, you now have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal ahead of closing argument. Take it away.
Sorry, I was on mute. Although my opponent did mention some really good points about where to begin, and is NPS the right starting point? In my mind, it is, because that already has the ear and the buy-in from the executives, which is always the hardest part when you're starting them to get into doing research, or doing even more research if they are doing research. You want to start where they're at. You want to meet them where they're at, and I think NPS does that.
All right. And Stephen. Oops, my goodness, I have so many things open here. Okay, Stephen, take it away. 1 minute.
I must reiterate, if we are already at the table, we have done a lot of work to get there and work with these partners. We have their ear. Well, we can use a metric like the Net Promoter Score alongside other data to help inform them and put things in terms they can understand. It's not a driving point for anything useful for our own UX strategy. It doesn't help us set a roadmap with them. It doesn't help us understand what those steps are, because an actionable plan is going to be just as appealing. Telling them what we can do to fix things, showing them the full breadth of our skills and tool set that we have available, putting it in language that they can understand. A very good point. While Net Promoter Score is one metric they key in on, they didn't get to where they are by being ignorant. They can learn, they can grow, they can be brought along the UX journey with us.
All right. And finally, for our closing argument, I'd like to give each of you 2 minutes to make your case. And to those in the audience, this is their last chance to convince you if yes is the answer for Net Promoter Score, or if no is the answer for Net Promoter Score. And Kyle, I'm going slow to give you that, help you find that mute button. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Go for it.
Okay, so the NPS score is just one number, and we can't reduce user experience to a single number. I will agree with my opponent that this is not something to hang our hat on completely. Now, it is our job as UX professionals to always be advocating for what the work that we need to do. They may want to just hang their hat on that one number and not do anything for a couple of quarters, but that's not something that we can let them do. It's our job to make sure that they understand that this is just a starting point and not necessarily a bad one. You have to come and meet them where they're at. Again, the comparability for NPS is so important. There are plenty of industry benchmark studies to help companies see how their NPS scores measure up against their competition. Without that number, they don't feel like they have that understanding. Now, there is a time and a place for it, and I don't think we can get rid of it completely. It's one of those things that we're kind of stuck with and have to learn to take that next step, to not let that just be the only data point that they're gathering, to gather more. And it can be coupled in such a wonderful way by asking more questions like not just would you recommend us, but have you recommended us in the last year? That's a great question to kind of prove out that number a little more. And usually once they get a taste for that data that you can get and see that you can get more from it, it's just a doorway to getting more information.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, Stephen, find that mute button. Are you all set? Stephen, you there? You ready?
Yes. So I was waiting to talk before the timer started.
Okay. I love a good rule follower. Good job. Okay, take us home.
I'll also begin by agreeing with Kyle that the NPS is a simple benchmark. It is a great benchmark to share, to be in front of a wide audience without a lot of deep understanding. It is a useful tool to measure product impact. But the question is, should we as UX professionals use NPS to measure the product's impact? We shouldn't. We have so many more tools available to us. We have so many more resources, so many more ways we can bring people on a journey of not only what the impact our product is having on our audience, but why. We can give more detail and give more insight beyond what the measurement is, if it's having any impact on our audience. While it's something that we can use in our toolkit, we can align with somebody else who is measuring a Net Promoter Score. We can use that as a cross-reference. We can make sure that we're using it to align our own data with the interests and the work of other people involved in our project, of our business partners, of our marketing partners, of anybody else. But in terms of what we are promoting and what we are presenting in our data, Net Promoter Score doesn't go far enough. Again, it's a very easy way to share understanding if our users are interested in what we're saying or not. but it doesn't show us any context. It's going to require follow-up measurements. It's going to require a UX skill set to do something with that number and take it farther. So as a UX professional, we should start with something that can bring us to a better answer. We then align ourselves with our business partners and other teams using metrics like the Net Promoter Score to build that bigger picture and bring everybody along the journey together.
All right. Firstly, kudos to both of you for staying within the time. Love it. It's not like some of those other debates we've seen where, you know, things go a little awry and perhaps we don't stick to the timing as well as we might like to. So thank you to both of you for getting us kicked off, as well as making incredibly persuasive arguments. So I see a question in the chat. Is the criteria for debate, should we use NPS to measure product impact, or should we only use NPS to measure product impact? Well, I'm going to stick to the exact phrasing of the question and allow each of you to decide how you want to read into it, how you'd like to think about it, and how each of the different sides, both of the different sides, should play into how you would ultimately vote. So go ahead and take another couple of minutes to get your votes in. I can see that they are coming in. And we'll take a couple of minutes to let the votes come in. And then I would love to open up for a group discussion once we know who our winner is. I'd love to hear from our audience members where they fall on this side of the debate. Yes, Stephen, go for it.
Are we allowed to vote when we're not participating as a debater?
Sure, absolutely. I am the only one who's going to stay recused because as the moderator, it's my job to stay neutral. Even though I do hold a strongly held opinion on this particular topic, I won't say another word. All right, so far we have about 10 votes in. So I'm going to give people another couple of minutes here. Our poll is going to close at 7:16. So it's 7:15 on my computer right now. So we're going to give it one more minute, and then we are going to see together who our winner is. And by the way, this is my first time using Slido, so gonna figure this one out together too. Okay, excellent. And I would like to just draw your attention to our chat, where I see some very good sports personship between Kyle and Stephen. Again, not like some of these other debates we watch. So definitely appreciating the good vibes. Okay, we are at time. So let me hop out here into our poll and close the debate. And how do okay, hold on. I'm gonna click on it, open it. Okay, there it is. Here is our result. Kyle, it looks like you just eked out a victory over Stephen. And there were 0.23 individuals who could not be swayed, which is a credit to both of you in your ability to, let's see, one participant. We had a little shift in the live polling. So let me see, present in full screen. What happens if I do that?
I've got to say, I was so bummed getting yes. I will push back like hell on NPS in real life. I was really hard to come up with an argument for this. And Stephen, I thought you were doing so good. I'm like, damn it, he's getting all that. But there was one thing that wasn't mentioned, and the one main reason that I have an issue with NPS is that it's asking people to predict the future, what they will do in the future, and nobody does that. And there was actually a study done by the person who created NPS, Fred Rothschild, I think his name is, 60 to 80% of customers who actually said they, or 68% who defected or didn't repurchase a product were in fact satisfied or very satisfied with it. So you can be satisfied and not tell someone about it, not repurchase. You can be unsatisfied and still repurchase. It's just a made up number, which, it was really hard to do this.
Well, which are sweet loves. They love simple numbers that they can wrap their heads around. Like they really love this. It will get their attention. Like that, it's such a great point to drive home. And it can have its place to back up what we're doing, but we're user experience professionals. We can do better.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, I see that we've got some funny commentary coming in on the chat. No changing your mind, Roger.
Only for bragging rights, not for gift card.
That's right. I am going to open it up. I see Roger's hand is up, and I'd love for everyone else who has anything to add to either feel free to contribute in the chat or come off mute. This is a heated topic. How do people feel? Roger, go for it.
Yeah, I was glad I didn't get this topic, and I was glad let me rephrase that. I'm glad I didn't have Kyle's role in this topic, because I actually share her position on it, that NPS scores, really, they're just so subjective. I mean, you can have people that will say they're going to recommend something, but then actually don't, because what you say and what you do, as we know, is not always a tight correlation. And then you could actually be a promoter and a detractor at the same time as an individual. Let's say like this particular service is like something that is technologically advanced and maybe right up the alley for one of your coworkers or a friend. You could say, oh yeah, check this out. This is awesome. But then you would actually tell your parents, you don't want to do that. It's really complex. There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. So it's really contextual. And so you could be both roles. And what you say you're going to do is going to be based on your own personal experience and how you felt about it. But that doesn't mean you're necessarily always going to be a promoter either.
Yeah, good call for sure. Contextual, definitely. Any other thoughts? I'm going to keep this topic open for exactly 2 more minutes. Was there anything from our audience members? Was there anything that either Kyle or Stephen shared that was a new perspective, or maybe surprised you, or thought, well, obviously a bunch of people voted for Kyle, edging out Stephen there. What made, if you voted yes, what swayed you in Kyle's argument? Uh-oh, are these results fraudulent? Do I need to go back and check the ballot box?
Well, I voted for Kyle because she seemed really, first of all, you're a phenomenal speaker, Kyle, but you had some great data points. You mentioned some quotes and articles and people's names, which kind of started selling me a little bit. Honestly, maybe I'm a sucker for the data points, so maybe I'm a C-level executive. But now that we're all talking about it, I do kind of see the opposite side. And something Roger said that kind of struck my mind is it reminds me almost of like Amazon reviews. Sometimes I'll read a review. It has nothing to do with the product. It's like they thought they were getting something else, so they gave it 2 stars because they're pissed. And so it's like maybe you didn't use the tool or the service correctly, and so you're a detractor, whereas that's not really giving like helpful feedback, where if you had used it properly, you would have been a promoter. So that's something I hadn't thought of before.
Stephen, really good call. Thank you, Megan, for sharing that. And Stephen has really brought something very pressing to my attention. Our algorithms, our UXPA monthly meeting algorithms, are fact checking live as the speakers are making their arguments, and we will take our responsibilities very seriously if we hear any misleading information or misinformation. We will revoke their opportunity. Just kidding. Okay, so
my last thing I wanted to say on the point that I think Kyle did a really great job nailing in the core of our argument was that we're here measuring desirability, and this is a very simple number we can point at for a base metric. You know, it's very hard to get that kind of data out of our qualitative research. So something like a net promoter score is a very easy number we can use to just point to and say, like, look, this number says everything that we're saying. You know, ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to make our products easy to use, reliable, enjoyable. And in theory, if we've done all of those things, they're a promoter.
Yeah, well, there you have it. That's our closing argument for round one. So congratulations again to Kyle. I'm going to close out this poll, and I'm going to bring us into round two. So let's see. We now know that Kyle and Roger will face off against one another. This will be really, we're going to see some fireworks going here. I just know it. So let me see. All these little windows open. Okay, so round two, the topic. Should we still be including demographic details in persona profiles? For example, age, race, income, those kinds of personal demographics that describe individuals in our personas that we use as part of our research outputs. Again, yes or no. So now let's go to our picker and let's see. So we have, I'm going to take Stephen out, and I'm going to, oh wait, shoot, I did not mean to do it that way. Hold on. Kyle, there you go. I'm going to, so wait, how do I do this? Stephen, and now it's Roger. Okay, so what we are assigning here is who will go first in the in the assignment. Okay. Okay, so Kyle, we are now going to give you, oh no, how did we do it last time? You the opportunity to, no, Roger, you get to decide. Are we selecting which side for you or first, or are we selecting which side for Kyle first?
Let's pick for Kyle since she's going to speak first.
Okay, here we go. I have to do the pregnant pause to let the confetti come. Okay, so here we have it. Let's go back to my screen. So Kyle, wait a minute, I already forgot.
I'm at the
first. You're the no on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Mixing it up for you. Okay, so stakes have just gotten really high because if Kyle wins this round, she will be crowned our true champion. But Roger, depending on how you fare here, Stephen may have an opportunity to try to come back. So the new topic that we're going to focus on is, should we still include demographic details in persona profiles? Yes or no? Roger, you are going to be arguing in the affirmative, and Kyle, you are going to be arguing in the negative. So let me hop over to Slido and open up our next poll. That should be live, and I will come over to our timer and set us for 2 minutes, 30 seconds. And Kyle, when you are ready, let me know. I'll start the timer and you can provide your opening argument.
Okay.
Christine, could we?
Oh, sorry. I forgot. Thank you. Julia
I was the first one to forget. So thanks, Christine.
Okay, hold on. Intermission. Sorry, Kyle, I got you like right to the very edge. Take a break. I hope this doesn't throw the whole debate. We would like to give Megan from Market Street Talent the opportunity to just introduce herself, introduce Market Street Talent. They have been a dedicated supporter and sponsor of our chapter. Geez, going back how long, Kyle? Many, many years, definitely during the Kyle reign for sure. So Megan, I'll hand it over to you and ask you to introduce yourself and Market Street Talent and how our members could take advantage of your services.
Sounds good. And I'm so sorry to disrupt the flow. I'll make it better with puppy. That's helpful. This is Fernie, and she'd be a lot cuter if she stopped pooping in the house. But
okay.
Yeah, but so I'm Megan. I'm a senior account executive at Market Street Talent. I've been here it'll be 3 years and about 2 weeks, which is crazy. Started right before COVID, so it's been a fun ride. Market Street Talent, for those who don't know, is a small but mighty IT recruiting company based in Portsmouth. We are a woman-owned small business. We focus throughout the entire IT vertical. And actually, within the last 2 years, we have pivoted and also added on specific marketing roles, so digital and interactive marketing. So we've actually had quite a few UX, UI positions, social media managers, SEO, email campaign specialists, and things like that. So it's definitely a great space, and I wish my brain worked in some of these ways, because I think it'd be great. But yeah, so if anyone's ever looking to switch careers, if anyone's ever looking to hire IT specialists or professionals of any kind, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my LinkedIn profile in the chat as well. Fern, unfortunately, doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, and she's getting put on a performance improvement plan, but she's still sweet.
She's wicked cute.
Yeah, she's tired now. That's why she's being so good. Usually she's a little terror.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. Yeah, and one quick question for you. For our attendees who may be from outside the New Hampshire region, with the environment being what it is with remote roles, would you recommend that somebody reach out to you if they're not in this immediate vicinity as well?
Yes, definitely. So of course, our dream is to really focus on the Seacoast area, so from Portland to Boston, and that's selfishly so that we can meet our clients in person and kind of build and strengthen the relationship that way. But in the remote world that we're living in and working in, I have a lot of clients who I'll probably never see in person because they're a little bit more on a national scale than a local scale. So definitely the same. We're never going back to 5 days on site. Half of my job is educating my clients on that. So definitely, and no matter where anyone is, they should be talking.
All right, good to know. Thank you so much. And thank you for your ongoing support of our chapter. We're thinking about starting to integrate some in-person events in 2023. So, I think where Market Street has been supporting us with the Zoom membership over the course of our virtual time. We will have the opportunity to meet with them and mingle with them, hopefully a couple times in 2023. So with that, I will re-ground us. Kyle, you ready? Gosh, your adrenaline spiked. You're probably like in a lull now. Hopefully we can trust the results of this debate. Okay, on that note, I am going to hit start, and please open us up.
Okay, so demographic information often introduces bias to our decision-making processes, and they really help us, rarely help us problem solve around specific needs and barriers. And in fact, demographics often mask them, so they have the opposite effect. So even Indy Young, who's the author of Practical Empathy, she posted a siren call on Twitter. She asked everyone to please remove age, gender, ethnicity, location from our personas. She said none of these things cause behavior thinking, but they cause assumptions, which is absolutely dangerous in our job. Now, when demographics are used, the stereotypes, what happens is stereotypes, assumptions, and generalizations come into play in order to validate design decisions. And it has a discriminatory effect. So a lot of times we're trying to make that person come to life by giving them these demographic information that to try and help us picture the user. But when in fact what we're doing is actually helping us to forget about a lot of other users. And in my mind, we can and should be designing for behavior and goals. That's what we should be designing for. So for instance, I'm doing a project right now for a travel company. Now, part of their audience segmentation includes people that prefer to do the unusual, unique things on a trip versus the typical touristy things. Those are two very different types of travelers. They also segment based on people who are planners versus people who wing it, you know? And these are user groups that span demographics completely. You could have demographics of all mix, all types and sizes within all those different segmentations. And it really detracts us from really designing for that behavior and goals.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle, for getting us kicked off. Roger, I'm going to cue you up here and let you find your mute button and let me know when you are ready to go, and I will hit start for your opening argument.
I'm ready.
Okay, take it away.
So including demographic data in personas actually is a good thing when you are designing or creating an experience that has a specific target. So if you are trying to market or increase sales to a particular set of users, then demographic data is important. And that may be based on age, that may be based on gender identification, that may be based on geographic location, or even education level. All of those things are going to give you an insight as to what is going to appeal better to people in that category versus not. Also, when Kyle talked about discrimination, you would want to discriminate against users that are not your target, meaning that if they're not of interest or if they don't align with what your goals are, then you don't want to cater and design for those users. And then when we talk about making assumptions for demographics, for personas, and personas are highly debated, personas really should be based on data and research, but unfortunately, yes, there are a lot of times when personas are essentially whipped up with a little of this and a little of that based on subject matter expert opinion and not actual research. And so unfortunately, yes, there are assumptions that are made in creating personas. And then we also want to create personas that may encapsulate a group, but that group should consist of like individuals. And whatever the criteria is, and you would want to use that as sort of filtering that group for that persona, like Kyle had mentioned, where you had certain types of travelers, for instance. So you're painting broad strokes. There's just a lot of significance in creating personas with that information, whether it's age, cultural, income ranges that allow them to afford your product or not. These are valuable insights that should be included in a persona.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. Okay, let's tee up Kyle for a 2-minute rebuttal. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, ready.
Go for it.
So we're all trying to build the right thing for the right person. You know, we create personas to build empathy, but you cannot have empathy when you're stereotyping, when you're building in assumptions, mass generalizations. When all that's coming into play, we're fighting against the whole reason why we're doing the research, why we're doing this exercise in empathy. So it works against that. To give another example, one of my clients is Constant Contact, and when I was doing work for them, they had a really great way of presenting their personas. They didn't use demographics in a way that is typical. It wouldn't be like education level, ethnicity, age ranges. They said, our customer is the bead lady. And everybody understood what the bead lady was. It was the woman who owned a bead shop out of her home. Her business needs were too small to hire a large CMS product. She didn't have a lot of technical savviness to be bothered with such a complex solution. So Constant Contact was the perfect product for her. And everybody just got it. It didn't have to be cluttered or made into this perfect template of and she has 2 dogs and 2.5 children. It's just clutter, and it's unnecessary to really get at why this person is the right fit for the product, what their needs are, and how they're going to use it.
Excellent. All right, teeing up Roger. Let me know when you are set, and I will hit go for a 2-minute rebuttal.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, take it away.
Okay. In regards to empathy, I would argue that having more salient data about the demographic data about your user group that this persona embodies actually helps it become more real, and people can identify with it better, because we are all going to have people in our lives that may have certain attributes or fall within certain demographic areas that helps us associate with that persona. So it becomes less of a stranger to us if there's some of that personal information. Now, that said, we don't want superfluous data. Like, we don't need to know that somebody has 2 dogs, unless, of course, that's actually important to the product we're building. Maybe we're building a website for a pet supply company, a B2C product. So some of that data certainly isn't necessary. And that's really where creating the persona, or really working on what the persona needs to include in order to help you create the product, is just as important as doing the research to collect that. Also, it's important to note that when a persona is being used for designing a product versus designing how the product is going to appeal or be marketed for sales, those are 2 different uses for personas. Demographic data is not necessarily going to help you design how the interaction model for a particular widget on the screen should be, unless, of course, there is something that might be age-related or culturally related or educationally related that could make that better or worse. But typically, we're talking about sales and marketing.
Oops, sorry. All right, 1-minute rebuttal from Kyle before we, and then we'll hear 1 minute from Roger before we go into closing arguments. And Cal, if you don't mind reposting the code to the Slido, just in case anyone needs it, that'd be helpful. Let's see, we are in 1 minute. All right, Kyle, when you're ready, let me know.
I'm saying ready on mute. Oh, okay. Ready.
Okay, for real. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Take it away.
So one thing my opponent said that I will agree with is that including the demographics that matter is all that's important. We should not be including everything. And that's something I'm fighting against. Alan Cooper, who said, the more specific we make our personas, the more effective they are as design tools, says the cis white dude, the old cis white dude. And I will fight against that a lot because things have changed. There's a lot of things in our industry that needs to come to this age and understand that some of this stuff that we're doing is actually detracting from our goals. If we're including things like the demographics that don't matter, then we're leading people down the wrong path, which is going against our whole goal. Christine, I think you're on mute.
Okay. What I was trying to say is, Roger, let me know when you're off mute and ready to go. The irony of mute. All set?
I'm all set.
Okay, great. Go for it.
I'd like to echo what Kyle said. And she actually made a statement in favor by saying that demographics that matter, right? So there is demographic data that absolutely does matter. And there is demographic data that doesn't matter. And as I said before, it really comes down to defining what it is you need to learn. Personas are the output of a research activity, and every research activity should start off with what is it that we want to learn from this research, and how is that going to be used to benefit the development or refinement of this particular product. So demographics that matter are certainly what we want to focus on. And there is just a strong value in having the demographics that matter, because they do matter, whether it's gender identification, education, a particular role within a business, all is helpful. It can be.
Okay, thank you, Roger. And in closing, I'd like to give each of our debaters 2 minutes to make their final arguments, beginning with Kyle. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oops, I forgot to reset. Okay, now I'm ready. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so in closing, I really want us to focus on the fact that as UXers, designers, researchers, our jobs are to actually learn more about the end user and their world in order to design better for it. We should absolutely be designing for behavior and for goals. And if we get caught up in demographics, that is actually a distraction. It is getting us to focus on the wrong things. And as I showed in those previous examples with the travel company, with Constant Contact, they're actually not even needed. Our points become much clearer when we are just simply stating who we're designing for in terms of the things that matter, which are why they're using the product, why they need the product, what their end goals are, and how they use it. And I'll end it there.
Okay, short and sweet. I'm going to reset and hand it over to Roger. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, bring us home.
Okay. I'd really like to just wrap it up by saying that demographics do matter, but they need to be, with great power comes great responsibility, right? As Uncle Ben said to Peter Parker. If we look at certain demographics like age, it does in fact affect behavior in certain ways. And if that is important to the product you're designing, it should be included and should be something to be considered when creating your personas. For instance, if we look at age demographics, that can certainly affect people's experiences with interfaces, where an older user may have more experience in using a mouse, whereas a younger user may first approach an interface as a touchscreen. And any designer knows that the difference between a touch interface versus a mouse-based interface is going to have a different set of rules and constraints that you need to work within, and can make or break the experience in certain ways. Income level is another example of a demographic that really can rule things out. Does this person even meet the criteria for your target audience. Education, how you're going to design the content on your website has a lot to do with what the education level is of the users, whether they have 3 degrees or whether they don't even have a GED, is really going to influence how you design your interface and your content strategy to appeal to that user and have a higher success rate, whether it's through conveying information or through there's a conversion to a sale. And I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. All right, that brings us to the close of round 2. I'm going to reset this, and I'm going to hop back to my presentation. Oops, there's a typo in my slide. Again, hit that Slido and take a few minutes to get your votes in. I see some votes are already starting to come in, which is great. I would like to, again, congratulate Kyle for making it to round 2. Excellent work, and also acknowledge Roger for making some very compelling arguments. As soon as we get our votes in, I see more coming in. Awesome. Keep them coming. As soon as we get our votes in and we know where everybody has landed, we will do the same thing and open it up again for discussion so that we can hear from our participants, our audience members rather, about where you fall on this important topic. And I am going to give us another couple of minutes here. I see more votes coming, which is great. And I'm intentionally, in the spirit of good UX, not showing on my screen how people are voting so as not to bias the group. So I want everybody to make their own independent assessment. What argument was more compelling for you? Did you feel that Kyle was right in that it introduces bias, or did you feel that Roger was right in that it introduces focus? Oh yes, and great great comment by Linda acknowledging the Susies, the power couple, the power UX couple that we as at NHUXPA like to refer to as royalty. All right.
This is not what we talk about at dinner, by the way.
I think our kids would disagree. They're like, oh, more UX stuff.
It'll be interesting to see if there are future UXers in the Susie household, or what will happen if you're like, just power of, if it will sink in and the power of influence will take hold. Okay,
so marketers instead.
Yeah, seriously.
If anything, they'll learn. If anything, they've learned to appreciate a good experience.
I hope. Yeah.
Funny. Okay, so let's give it one more minute. We're going to close the poll at 7:51. If you haven't gotten your votes in, now's the time. You have one more minute, and I will soon reveal the results and open it up for discussion from the group.
I will say while we're waiting, I had to give a little talk to introduce UX to 8th graders for a career exploration class. Mm-hmm. I was all jazzed to do it. Roger will tell you I spent way too much time on this deck. And these kids, they're just like, they're not in the right mindset. Definitely for high school, sure. But they're like not thinking career at this point.
Yeah, this was like a C-suite pitch. I mean, she had her timing down, the colors. Is this right? Is that right? I mean, she always does a phenomenal job with the presentations anyways, I will say. But these kids didn't know what they got.
I did share some funny video clips, though, poor usability. So if anything, they were a little entertained.
Yes. Cal has invited you to join our roster to like give that presentation to an audience that'll actually
appreciate it. Preaching to the choir.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I'd like to make our results known. Ta-da! Kyle, you did it again, 2 in a row. You left Stephen and Roger in your dust. I can't remember who will end up. I guess that means Roger. You better watch out for the banana peel. Stephen
He's tough. He's tough. He's a hard one.
I should have wrote down quotes, I guess. Lesson for next time.
I know.
I heard within the first couple sentences you already started dropping some quotes. I'm like, that's a good idea.
Exactly. Yes.
I had Uncle Ben.
You also had a hard subject in this one. You had a hard subject.
Yeah.
This was probably the toughest one, I think.
I think you had the harder one for
sure.
sure.
Truth be told, this was not the side that I wanted to be on.
Right.
I think that, again, as a UX designer, as an interaction designer, I'm looking at creating the interface or the UI that and the interaction model that people will either success or fail through using. And I think that demographics really don't need to be part of that, personas, I should say, for that. But I do see the value in doing research. I do see the value in having demographic data when we're talking about sales and marketing, because there are specific biases that can be used to the advantage of the company to target specific demographic segments. Whether that's right or wrong is debatable on its own. But again, as a UX designer, I don't think that demographic data is absolutely necessary. And most of the time, I would say that it's absolutely not when it comes to actually designing an interface or an interaction model.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh, go for it, Stephen. Yep.
Oh, I was going to say, I think one thing you could say to including it goes back to the Net Promoter Score, where it's easy for people to digest who are outside of UX, where it's easy for people to look at this and understand this is a real person, where that's the goal of our personas, is to drive the conversation away from, do we like this? Do we not like this? And does this feature meet the needs of this real user? And helping people, think of this as a real person is good. But again, it doesn't give us an advantage as a UX team. It just sort of gives us some shortcuts to bring people along, but then driving people, Kyle, as you said, like to the behaviors, to the intentions, that's the real value of the persona.
Yeah, I think it comes down to even like identifying with the empathy of the need that the user has and not empathy for the user. Right, there's a big difference there.
So I find it, firstly, I didn't think to bake this in, and in future UX debates, we definitely will, which is to poll our panel to see which side of the issue you really fall on. So to those who argued in favor of the opposite side, so Roger and Kyle in the first one, extra kudos to you, because, I think obviously it's harder to argue in favor of something that you're not as excited about. But I think, as we heard skillfully from all three of you, there really are two sides, pros and cons to each of these things. And when used appropriately and applied appropriately, there could be an argument made in favor or in opposition of any of these topics, or either of these topics. And on that note, since we are pushing up against the top of the hour, I just want to open it up to general conversation. But before we do that, I will just again thank Stephen, Kyle, and Roger. You guys did a great job. And being able to argue so strongly on any side of an issue. And I know that was obviously luck of the draw with our fun randomizer wheel. So you all were on top of your game big time, and everyone is a winner. So Kyle, you will receive your $50 Grubhub gift card, and Stephen and Roger, you will each be receiving a $20 Grubhub gift card. And as Cal is pointing out in the chat, link to our community choice survey. We would love to hear from everybody. What's on your mind, topics you care about, people you're interested in, who do you want to hear from, what do you want them to talk about? We're also open to suggestions about different formats. If you enjoyed this debate, we had a couple of speaker panels this year, so open to feedback. If something is of interest to you, we want to hear from our community members and incorporate your voice into our planning for 2023. So with that, let's use the balance of our time. And Roger, I will hand it over to you. I see your hand up.
Thanks. I would like to re-gift my gift certificate, since Kyle and I live together, and I'm going to benefit from that Grubhub. I would like that the consolation prize to stay with UXPA to be used for a future contest. Wow.
Thank you, Roger. I mean, geez, it doesn't get much more benevolent than that. I also want to just make an announcement looking ahead to the balance of our year here. We're actually going to be taking a break next month in November during our normal schedule. This would fall right on the week of Thanksgiving. So we've decided to take a pause. I think many of us are all in Zoom fatigue mode. So something that we are hoping to do is a holiday social in December. Well, we'll definitely do the holiday social in December, but it remains to be seen if we'll be doing that in person or if we will go virtual. Obviously, one of the benefits of being virtual is that we're able to have so many people from all over the place joining us. That includes attendees and speakers as well. So if we do end up going virtual, we will make it fun, and we will have the benefit of knowing that we've reached a more broad community. If we do go in person, we will, of course, enjoy all the spoils of being in person. But we want to be smart about that. So we'll just keep an eye on things over the next few weeks, and we will post the details of that as soon as we have them ready. So yeah, we have 1 minute left. Anybody want to come off mute and give us a final, a closing thought about your vote that you cast tonight? Maybe you have a particular point of view on one of the subjects we discussed.
Hi, yeah, I just want to say thank you, everybody. This has been a lot of fun tonight, and a special kudos, like I said, to those who argued against their own opinion, and special props to Roger tonight for me, because he very nearly convinced me against my own opinion with his closing argument, but almost, just very closely. But I still don't think it's a UX thing we want in UX personas, but yeah, you did a great job arguing the opposite side. So congrats. And I hope we all do this again, because this has been a fun event.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad you're able to join us. And I love hearing like that almost made it to the tipping point. That's pretty good. So that can be your bragging rights, Roger, for sure. And
I knew I needed to quote Aunt May as well. So it's my own shortcoming.
Linda.
I got that quote. Yeah, I just want to say these two topics have been something that I've been going back and forth with. So thank you for sharing your side. What I gathered, and my main takeaway, is that both NPS and personas can be improved with adding more context. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, as always, I feel like we always learn a lot in these sessions, and even though I'm part of the crew that helps to coordinate them, I always benefit. So hearing these perspectives is always valuable. So again, Thank you to Roger, Stephen,
Great job, everybody.
and Kyle. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause.
Shout out to Dana, who joined us remotely from Ukraine. Dana, go to bed.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Good night, Dana.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. This was awesome. Thank you so much, Christine, for
Yeah.
organizing. This is a lot of fun.
Oh,
Thanks,
good.
Yes.
You guys are
Stephen.
the
Yeah.
best.
You did
Okay,
great.
talk
Yeah.
soon. See you in
Everyone.
December.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.